First thing I'm going to do is even though I know Ben, my brother, this is my who, what, and why. Now, who means who he is, what he does means what, but why, how many people know why Ben is Ben, and why he became, well, every one of you guys, I'm going to ask you the same questions, who, what, why. So first you, who, what, and why?
Sure, so my name is Ben Powers. I'm the executive director of the Southport School and CoLab in Southport, Connecticut. I'm also the director of the Global Literacy Hub at the Yale Child Studies Center and the president of the Dyslexia Foundation. And the why is easy, Harvey. I had the opportunity to meet Diana Hanbury King in 2000, and she became my mentor. And what she taught me was that we need to get evidence-based instruction in the hands of every kid, that every kid deserves the chance to learn to read. And so ever since working with Diana, that's really been my life's mission, is to find ways to push out good literacy practices into the hands of people.
Raindrops, raindrops, there's a storm a-coming. There's a storm coming. Margie, who, what, why?
Margie Gillis, I'm the founder and president of Literacy How. And why? I mean, I watched my brother struggle to learn to read, and he inspired me. And I studied reading with Isabel Liberman. Some of you may know that name. 1974, so almost 50 years now. And she set me on the path to staying with the evidence and the science, and there are so many children that need us, so many children that need us. So that's my why.
That's a good why. But see, did anybody notice that everybody gets inspired? So all the work you're doing makes a big difference. You know, I'm going to go back and, you know, when I talked to Diana, you know, Diana said, at the end of her life, Diana said, I said, Diana, you taught so many people how to read, and you taught so many teachers, and you taught so many people. And she said, I did the best I could. What about that? What about that for a motto? Wow. Doing the best you could, and then teaching others, and just keeping the legacy going onward. It's important. Okay, who, why, where, Barbara?
Barbara Wilson. I am co-founder of Wilson Language Training. I'm the author of Wilson Reading System, Foundations, and Just Words. And my why is I was a teacher, like so many other teachers, ready to change the world when I came out of School of Education, and learned pretty quickly in the early 80s that I didn't know how to teach kids how to read. And I was lucky because when I was very young, I found Mass General Hospital Language Disorders Unit and learned how to do Orton Gillingham. And I was hired after I did the training to continue there with adults diagnosed with dyslexia. And so my biggest why for all of these years is after working with adults for 5 years and seeing that there was a way to teach them how to read, that how it impacted their lives because they didn't learn when they were young, and just feel like this is what we have to do. And it's just wonderful to have so many people here at the end of a conference on a Friday night, and each one of you, we need the army that you talk about, because the why is we can't stop until all kids in America get the teaching that they deserve in the schools.
All right, I'll go for it. I am Tracy White Wheaton. I'm president and CEO of Nye House Education Center. I've had that privilege for the past 8 years. I think it shows. My why is my mom in particular. My mom was one of those kids, and I just really kind of dissolved into tears because she was one of those children I could see in the ones we saw in the film, who went to 8 different schools. And my mom was recently screened by Nye House for Adult Literacy, and she is mildly dyslexic. She's 82 years old, and she's in our adult literacy classes.
Wow.
And so for all the little Bessies out there, That is my why, because of the 7 of us, she instinctively knew if I call literacy a form of currency or exchange. She fought for that, and she was the one parent volunteer in our elementary school because she hoped we would get a better shot because she would show up. And the 7 of us have a totally different life trajectory in spite of navigating really challenging circumstances in inner city Detroit. It transformed our family tree, literacy. And I'm no better or different than my extended family members who had very different life outcomes. That was the differentiator. And it is a privilege to be literate. And I am compelled to pay that forward for every boy and girl. I don't care if you're white, black, or polka dot, is what I say. I love children, I love educators, and they deserve to win at their work.
You know, last night, Dr. Tracy was talking, and you told a great story last night, which you can say tonight, or you can say again. And I was like, that's why we want to have podcasts. That's why we want to, and Ben's podcast dropped today, right? And who's dropped? When did they drop? Oh, I forget it. These guys we keep recording people when they're on our panel, and we put them together. So far, we've had 9 people up. And we've had, in the last 10 weeks, we've had over 40,000 views just on our podcast alone. So that's what bringing this to everybody to hear, not just in a dyslexic community, the IDA or something, but we want to break outside of that and get, because when we have screenings, guys, and we want you to sign up, whether you have us there or not there, but have the film there. You know, we want school superintendents, principals, policymakers to make decisions on it, but we want to have these podcasts out there so everybody can see it, not just people who care about dyslexia, but people who care about literacy, because that's kind of a big section where we're going. Okay, guys, tell me, did you like the film?
Love the film, Harvey.
Tell me what you liked about it.
I'd say, you know, one thing I really loved about the film, not only that it told a really cohesive story about the trajectory of kids. A lot of times we tend to blame people for why kids don't have successful outcomes in school. We blame things like poverty. We blame things like, you know, teachers don't care. And I think one of the beautiful things is that the film really shows from every different angle that that's actually not the case. With the right kind of evidence-based instruction, we actually can empower teachers. And I thought that's what was so compelling at the end of the film was all of those teachers, you know, all of those teachers in Waterbury, they feel empowered. You can feel that. They feel empowered through data. They feel empowered through instructional practice. They feel empowered through the outcomes that their kids have. 73% of those kids reading at proficiency or above. That's the inverse of what we're seeing in most schools in this country. So that sense of empowerment across the board for Tate, for Kat, for the parents, that's just such an amazing outcome.
And adding to that, I loved how, you know, you started day 1 and then showed how the suspension, you know, like, is that the right word? Oh my gosh, it's a long day. The suspense, there you go, that's the word I was looking, of, you know, we don't have many more days left. Like, we have to get to the end and make sure these kids can read. And it was, you know, it wasn't like, I didn't feel like they were putting undue pressure on the kids. They did it with love and concern, but they knew when those children left school for the summer, unless they were going to go to summer school, they would not have the same experiences. So I just got and I know those teachers and I know Dina, and I just felt you conveyed their passion, like you said, their concern, their love, and their sense of, we don't have a minute to waste. Like, we have to make sure this happens for these children. And I mean, that's what most teachers want, but not every teacher can do it because they don't have the tools.
We were honored to be able to follow. When you're watching, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys are first grade teachers, but you know what we're talking about, right? But when you witness that and you're watching that, I mean, I think every parent, every elected official should just really know. And you know, whether Julie Washington says it's a revolution or an evolution or a war, whatever. I mean, there's casualties, there's a lot going on, and if it's not done right, there's going to be mistakes, and people are going to get hurt, and we have to build the foundation back on it. So it was an honor to follow those teachers, and they were really committed, and that's what it felt like to us, because that's what I saw. So that's what we saw.
Yes, well, it was a powerful film, and I want to say before I say anything else that I have a lot of gratitude, because I can only imagine the number of hours and hours and hours that you and your team put into doing that, from the filming, from the editing, from the thoughtful ways that you showed things, from your care, and honestly, I think the love that you put into that is just amazing. I think one of the things that comes across is this is very serious business. Teaching kids reading is serious, and it takes hard work to get it done. I do not know any teacher that I have ever met who goes into teaching without wanting to help kids and change kids' lives. That's why they go into teaching. It's not to get summers off. It's not to impress anybody with their career choice. It's not for the salary, that's for sure. Teachers go into teaching to make a difference. And over the years, I've just seen so many teachers feel like they don't make a difference. And then when they get empowered, and that was the wonderful word I think that you used, Ben, teachers who become empowered know, give me a kid who can't read and I can teach you. And you could see the teachers feeling that way, saying, we are doing this and we're going to make every kid here be successful. And it was just beautifully shown, so loved it.
And I'd like to tag on to what you shared, because at year 5 of teaching, I was ready to give it up. I mean, I came so close to quitting the profession. Middle school teacher, high school English teacher, and I was not apprenticed to succeed. And so what I see when I see that film is not just the teacher succeeding, but an administrator with the humility to have a growth mindset and ensure that they are setting the system up for success. And I've been in that hot seat. I've been a central office leader who didn't know what I didn't know. I heard a participant at this conference say, this is not Game of Thrones. Adult egos are the bane of the existence of children who deserve our best.
Yes.
And what I love about the people who come together like our village, we believe in leading the way with light and love and relentless focus on the right things for children. And so it gives me hope when I see that, because it makes it very clear. These teachers, they're winning, and so the children are winning, and I'm envisioning these children when they have children. They will even have a language about the evidence-based approaches they can translate to the next generation. Think how powerful that's going to be for these children, and they may want to be a teacher one day as well.
That's right.
I see a lot of teachers, a lot of people who are teachers, loved teachers and watched, and of course they got it and they picked it up. So I appreciate everything you guys said. So now we have a finished film, kind of. And we have an advocacy toolkit that we're working on. And I respect you guys as friends and colleagues, but the giants of knowing what's going on. So we have this toolkit, we have this film. How can we use this to help change? I mean, I think we're in a perfect storm, guys. I think there's so much has happened in the last X amount of years. I think this is a turning point. There's this little thing called the internet. I don't know if all the kids use it, right? There's these groups that are together on it. We talked before about decoding dyslexia. They found each other on the internet. Maria Murray was also discouraged. Teaching has a way of doing that to people, doesn't it? So Maria Murray, and she wrote a letter to 100 of her closest friends, and now she has thousands of people who believe in the same thing. So there's strength in numbers, and the information is there because of the science of reading. So now we know the secret, and it's not a secret no more. So now we have to get it out. How can this film and the Advocacy Toolkit, how do you guys see us going forward across the country?
It is anchoring this in it being a human rights issue. It is. Quality of life, digital literacy, financial literacy, health literacy. All of these things are fundamentally tied to doing the right thing for every boy and girl and adult. And so if we anchor it that way, could it be our collective moonshot as a nation? If we could put somebody on the moon, we can do this work. And the other thing I'd say is shame and blame do not inspire. And you mentioned not finger pointing. We need to be able to figure out what does this person in front of me care about? Business leaders? Let's put it in front of them. They need an upskilled workforce, right? And now with AI, it's even more crucial and critical that we conceptualize this as part of being an internationally competitive country. And if not, we won't be.
That's right. Those who don't like change will love obsolescence, right? I think, it's, I think one of the huge ways that this film can really impact is a lot of districts right now, we see this across the country, and especially what just happened with Teachers College and the separation with Readers Writers Workshop, there's this vacuum, there's this, this army of people have really, kind of stormed the gates, and now there's this vacuum. And I think one of the huge opportunities is that districts, Tracy used the word village. It takes this village to really create this platform, and so this film can really be a catalyst. The toolkit can really be a catalyst to help administrators see that there are examples. Because, look, it's those who don't like change will love obsolescence, but we know change is hard. And you talked about school administrators, Tracy, and it's a big risk. They're taking a risk with something they're not maybe familiar with, or they don't have experience seeing, work in their own community. So this is just such a great example of, being that light, being that torch that can be out in front, so that administrators don't feel like they have to be in the dark.
And I think the light and torch, I absolutely love. And I guess it was just a coincidence that Waterbury has the parade that it does, because what a powerful way to have that movie end, to show how many different religions and cultures were represented in that town. And isn't this like such a critical period of history and a tipping point for us to make the change right now in reading? I think we are absolutely at a tipping point where we can do this, because we've been trying to do this for how many years? Forever, it feels. But I also think that, having that be in the film can give us all as Americans hope that we can all live together and we can do this together, and we have to come together to make changes that have to happen. And who can't get around having a literate nation? So I think this film is really important at this time to give Americans hope.
And empathy. Reading gives people empathy. Anyhow, you can. What's the expression? If you don't know how to read, you live one life. If you know how to read, you live 10,000 lives.
Yes.
So you can feel and understand. So I mean, that's the reason we have a film, but the Advocacy Toolkit, which is about every state, and we want people to be able to find help. And there's a lot of stuff on the internet, but we want to be able to tell a lot of stories. That's why we do the podcast stories, and that's why we want to keep going. Now, we think that's a toolkit just to go into school superintendents, Board of Education's decision makers, policy makers. If Decoding Dyslexia, does Hill Day again, we certainly like to do it. And I'd like to mention that the other films, there's some great. Why are there so many films about the literacy problem right now? Because there's a bloody literacy crisis going on in our country.
Hello.
Right?
Right.
So, and these films aren't in competition against each other. Matter of fact, one way to use these films is you have one play 3 months. 3 months later, you bring another one back and another one back, and so you're going to have these Board of Education, you're going to have the school superintendents, you're going to, and I'm not saying these guys are bad guys, I'm just saying they're aware or they're not aware. There's going to be elected officials, the education candidate that comes about every couple of years. And you show them clips of things, or you bring them into these screenings, and then you say, hey, by the way, since the last time we talked and you said you were going to do something, what have you done? And so it's a 1, 2, 3 punch. So I'm thinking as a village, and as we go forth and we go back to our own collective towns and states and areas, you know, we want to spread the information, but that's why we want to bring our films out. That's why we want to have moments like this, panel discussions with the podcasts and the toolkits. So I got a question, guys. You guys are smarter than I am, but so there's all this science, which is good. We saw it in Waterbury. Can this happen in other cities? How do you take all the research and put it into practice in the classroom? They're all different. You know, South Dakota is different than South Carolina and South Bronx, and you know, and they're all different. It worked once, but it's not going to work again.
It's working in many places. So I think you shine a light on all those places where it's working.
That's right.
So people can envision, you know, I can see myself there, because you're right, it looks different every place you go, whatever the circumstances are. And, you know, that Waterbury is such an interesting town. You know, you live very close to Waterbury. Connecticut's a small state, and Connecticut still has the largest achievement gap in the United States, even though we've passed good legislation, even though we have Haskins, Yale, this, that, and the other. But I mean, that town and what they've done in that town should inspire people to say, okay, if we can do it here, we can do it anywhere, and we must do it. We must do it everywhere. And we have to think about who was featured in that film. Like you said, the leadership was huge. The mayor was there. The community was part of it. The teachers, the teacher training. I mean, there's so many pieces that have to be in place, and it doesn't, you know, it goes up and down. I can tell you from having been in Waterbury for 20 years, it goes up and down, and you can't get discouraged. You know, because things happen, including the pandemic, and you say, okay, we got a dip, but we're going to keep going. And you have constants. I mean, that's really important. Like Dina, who's been there for 20 years, and you keep at it, and then, you know, you inspire people by showing this film and by giving them the toolkit, because that toolkit is huge. It's beautiful. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, it's phenomenal, and you're going to keep, you know.
And we're going to keep building it. All of you guys are going to keep adding.
Keep building that. Yeah. So. Lots of work to do, but you have to inspire people, and in a way that's loving and inclusive. And like you said, the ending to that movie was beautiful. I hadn't seen that. Very, very touching. Very, very well done.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead. No, you're good. You know, taking away excuses is so important, and the film definitely takes away excuses. The children are demographically diverse. I'm assuming economically and definitely in terms of the student groups they belong to. And I'm thinking of an example, right? How many are from the state of Ohio here? Okay. So there's a lighthouse, I call them lighthouse schools and districts in state departments. Helen Arnold Elementary, the principal came and co-presented with my team and me. And this is a principal that was so tired of losing at teaching kids to read that when a philanthropist flew central office and her team and herself to Houston to see a lighthouse campus that we'd worked with, this school, majority English language learners, this school, majority AAE dialect speakers, right, that she's serving. But she and her team, when they saw what was happening at this school, it took away their excuses. They had a mental model. And your film creates a mental model for what it can look like if they can't fly in.
Yes.
Long and short of it, they went from the lowest performing school in the district and the 8th lowest in the state of Ohio to the top tier of performance. And the governor of the state of Ohio came to visit it, to see it for himself. That's the power of each teacher being the light, each principal being the light, and each district being the light. You never know who might show up. And the butterfly effect is real. So it is my hope and prayer that this film will be a butterfly effect. I'd also like to say that highlighting that incarceration,
Yes.
systems are producing exactly what they're designed to produce. And that is an immoral, inappropriate, it's just, my Lord. If a mere story doesn't make people think,
What will?
what will?
And I want to add to that story that it's not an island. It's not the only place that it's happening. And I would love people here just to raise your hand if you feel like you're in a school that's making that transition and really working toward getting structured literacy, or if you're a trainer who has been working with a school and helping a school. How many of you, look at it is definitely something that is, happening. But I think we are at an important time where, as it's happening, we have to understand there is also something called implementation science. We know
That's
the
right.
science of reading. There is also a science of implementation. And we can't leave that piece out in the discussion, because that is where it's going to fall apart if teachers don't get the support, don't get the mentoring, don't get the coaching in the classroom,
Yep.
organizational support, leadership support, all the pieces that are part of implementation science. If that doesn't happen, then we'll have people energized and excited to do it, but they won't have the right
The support.
support and implementation pieces necessary to make it a success. So that has to be an important part of the conversation too.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the encouragement of us knowing, like, as Margie was saying, and I thought about it before, if one city can do it, 2 cities can do it. If 2 cities can do it, 5 cities can do it. 5 cities can do it, 10 cities can do it. That's why we have to stick together and show the examples that work. And that's, also, nobody wants to spend 7 years and work on a project. You just trust me, you think it's fun. It's not. It seems like a good idea at the time. So,
And
but
you've only just begun.
we've only just begun. So yeah, but the idea now is, we all have, we all have this. We all have these iPhones, and we can all tell the stories, and we can all work together on the internet. And I do think, and as Margie was saying, the teams go up and down. There's different things going on, and so you're always looking for those moments when you can make it work. But it's like mountain climbing. You're just going up a little bit at a time, and you can do it. And show your victories, and then we can come and shoot happy stories and do positive things. You and I were talking about doing some more stuff with Amir, and following up on those. And there's a lot of great little. And matter of fact, because of this, we all watch 5 or 10 minute stories. We don't sit. And I thank you guys all for sitting around an 82-minute film, like old school, and then coming in, hanging out, and talking for an hour. So, but the way to go forward with this information is to do it. Have these kumbaya moments of what's going on with our school. Our school went up 50%. Our school went up to 60%. Those are important things. Let people know about it and share it with people, and then the magic's going to rub off and happen. Okay, magic. Reading is not magic. Reading is not magic. So, but reading is science. So, what's the plans for the future, you guys? What do you think is going to happen in the next few years in our country? I mean, we're optimistic about it, but you guys, tell us the down and dirty. You're here all week getting research. You're talking amongst yourselves. What's going to happen? Is it going up and down, or are we going up? Are we on an upturn with reading and literacy and science of reading?
I think there's definitely more awareness, and that's why this movie is so important. And I love the fact that you don't feel like you're competing with these other movies, because each movie tells the same story. Basically, there is a science. It's not natural to learn to read. Teachers need to, I mean, the story is similar. You have different lens, but each story is important because they together, along with Emily Hanford's amazing reporting, is building this awareness, and that's the only way it's going to change, is that's the beginning. And then, do we have the political will? Do we have the political will as a country to actually do right by our children?
Right.
That's what it boils down to. And I love the fact that you had the two people, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. This is bipartisan.
That's right.
This cannot be part of the political debate in this country. Otherwise, it's going nowhere. So we have to stay above, outside of the politics, and continue to put children at the center of this discussion. And if we do that with love in our hearts, those of us who care about children, and we all do here, then I feel like we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay.
Well, you know what the future's going to be. The future's going to be what we make it, right?
That's right.
And that's exactly what you're saying. I mean, and Kareem was talking about that the other day. Love is an important, and he says, I feel crazy talking about love when I'm talking about education, but it's important.
I love that. Love that message.
That was great, right? Okay, any other?
You know, I just feel like we have to have hope that this is the beginning again, once again, because I felt like when I found out that you could teach in a way that was effective in the 1980s and coming to IDA conferences, it has really been at IDA conferences for me since the 80s. Actually, my first one was 1984, and I've gone to every one since. But you get this information, you're like, finally, and then reading first comes, finally, you know. Each time you feel that way, but it does feel different now, and I do believe that we are on a trajectory to make the difference, but it's going to take this army in this room and multiply that by thousands. So this film is definitely going to be part of that, but I think each one of us has a responsibility because we know what's needed and we have to keep fighting. But hopefully,
That's right.
hopefully we are just at the beginning, believe it or not, even though it feels like it's
We've been
been
doing
years
this
and
for a
years.
while.
Right, exactly. Yes.
I agree with you, Barbara. We have to hang on to hope, but as I've heard it said, hope is not a strategy. So I would like to quote my favorite superintendent I've ever worked with in the Valley of Texas, who created a literacy safety net for all children at all tiers. And he said, this is chess, not checkers. It's strategy. And with that in mind, when we think about the upstream issue of how we are apprenticing not just teachers, but superintendents and principals and curriculum instruction folk, we need to look at that upstream dynamic. And there are two acronyms. When I put my feet on the ground every morning, I'm like, live by faith and not fear. And you may have heard me use these acronyms before. Fear is often false evidence appearing real. Anything great I've ever been able to do in my life, I often did it with my knees knocking together. I did it afraid until I wasn't anymore. So we have a choice to live by fear or by faith. And my acronym for faith is focused adults intervening tenaciously with hope. With hope. And so, are we going to walk by fear or by faith? We've got to have that hope and that faith that if we keep sowing the right seed, we will reap a beautiful, bounteous harvest. And I'm seeing that happen. But not in silos like we're doing it now, together.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. You know, it's exciting to see those silos break down. And one of the things that I noticed in the film, Harvey, is that toward the end of the film, they're talking about being able to clearly identify kids who are not making it. You know, so we can celebrate the 73%, But they're now able to identify and say, okay, who are these kids who need that extra support? Who do we need to give more resources to? And one of the things on a scientific side that I'm excited to see is that, you know, we're all talking now about the science of reading, and we know it takes a while for research to get out into the field. But there's so much more of a focus on implementation science. There's so much more of a focus now in research projects that are really, and if anybody was at the Gordon Sherman talk on Thursday and heard Nicole and heard Tiffany and talking about reading comprehension and developmental language disorders, and we're able to focus now on, you know, on more finite issues and really being able to figure out more complex reasons why kids are struggling with the printed word. And so I think now if we can really make this standard, if we can really take that risk and make that standard in this country of using a basis of the science of reading, we're now going to be able to help all those kids who are failing, you know, that 27% in Waterbury. We're now going to have the tools and resources, and science is going to help us get there.
Okay, well, like I was saying before, we have a gathering outside we can do pretty soon, so I'm just going to do last questions, last thoughts, and I hope that you guys stick around and we can meet and mingle and talk, and you get your pictures taken in front of our really cool step and repeat Hopeville sign, and give us a testimonial too if you want. And so last thoughts, what haven't we talked about? What other things should they think about? Science of reading, future, kids, where are we?
I have one thought, Harvey.
What?
I think for as long as I've been involved with the IDA, this is a home of trailblazers, and we've got trailblazers up here who've really created this opportunity for us, and so we all need to go out. You know, we all need to share and be those trailblazers when we go back home tomorrow. When we all leave the IDA, we're enjoying this moment, but we need to be those trailblazers when we get back home. So we're all in it to fight the good fight.
Yeah, and adding to that, trailblazers who will reach across the aisle in a way to find people that you otherwise might not talk to or try to connect with. But those are the people that we need to really, I think, focus on and build relationships with instead of, you know, putting people off. Because unfortunately, there is still a war going on because there's a lot at stake here. So we have to really think about that and really think about who we can reach and like I said, build a bridge with so that we can, in the name of bringing children to reading and the equity piece that we've talked about tonight, we can have peace in this war. And I think that's something that you've done beautifully with the film. I think, you know, I felt that.
Well, I do want to say, like, everyone here, I'm not just sucking up to them. I really love all of them, all four of them. You guys are at the third screening, and all four of these people that are on the panel are in the film. So, and, you know, I was just saying to them, it's like, you know, I call Ben, I bother him all the time. Am I getting this right? As soon as I know I'm bothering Ben too much, you know, I call Margie. And I leave Ben alone for a while, you know. And then I work my way down, you know. So just how we do it, right? So the bottom line is, when you guys have screenings and you bring people in whatever film it is, and we were also talking about, well, what are you going to watch one film for? If you like NASCAR films, you're only going to watch one NASCAR film no, I only watch one film, you know? A gardening movie, I just watch the Rose movie. I don't watch no, so you watch this stuff and you care about it. So when you have panel discussions, you bring people up. We don't want to be preaching to the choir. We don't want just our friends. We want people who are going to be our friends. Like I say, invite your enemies and make them friends, right? Because we really only care about kids. It's not like, you know, I don't know. Okay, there's ego. That's a dangerous thing. Ego itself is a dangerous thing, and the reason Julie Washington says war is not the word is because it makes people feel bad. I'm on the wrong side, or is this or that. I mean, I got that, but there's also Kareem had people raise their hand. Who ever taught the whole word? Well, they did before they learned better. Mm-hmm. So, is it revolution? Is it evolution? What it is growth. And for people to be able to get by it. So having panel discussions, sitting in a room with a kumbaya moment after they've watched the film and they all get it, it's easier. I mean, I've had people who watch rough cuts of it on Board of Education. It's like, they really don't know how kids are learning. They really don't know. Right. So when you're sitting in a room with your education candidate and your school superintendents and your Board of Education, that's a time to go up, as Margie was saying, and we were saying before, let's go up and share some coffee with them, make some brownies and go to the school and talk to them. Don't be mad at them. Don't be argumentative. We're just trying to teach kids how to read. That's what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Any other last thoughts?
I think it's related to that. If anyone saw Marty Hogan this morning, she got the Margaret Bird Rawson Award, and she had her 4 C's, but one of them was compassion. And so as you're talking about that, it makes me think of that word compassion, and compassion for the educator who is like, what have I been doing for all these years? And it's kind of a mourning that you go through, I'm sure. I feel really lucky that I learned early in my career, but I have talked to many, many teachers over the years who said, oh my gosh, I wish I learned this 20 years ago. And so compassion for the educators, the teachers, the administrators, and I often think of, just the way we would work with children. We have a child who we know we want to get them there, but they're here. And so it's a step-by-step process, and we are working with them and understanding their behavior issues might be, related to where they're at, and having the compassion to bring them along to where we want to get them.
Yeah. I attempt to live by this phrase: be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to be angry. It's so easy to be quick to speak, slow to listen, and quick to be extremely upset. And finding common ground is very difficult if we're not operating from a place of humility, and also modeling a growth mindset, because the science continues to, right, the body of knowledge to grow. I think the thing that is a big takeaway from me, I learned from the principal I referenced earlier, LaMonica Davis. You know how there's this narrative that parents don't want to come to school if they're in certain communities and such? Well, what if the reason they're not coming is because the system failed them, and the last place they want to go is the place that failed them? Yep. She has parents bursting into the school. They're she's not feeding them. You have to feed them like they're animals, right? No. What happened, she understands anecdotally, is that during the pandemic, when they were delivering services to their children, right, virtually, the parents were learning along with their children, and they were realizing and understanding the structure of the language. They were learning, and so they've come to the school, they keep coming, and they say, can we learn to read too? So I think we need to think about this as a generational opportunity as well, and not just limit it to focusing on preventing reading failure for the children, but creating a space for the adults to have a do-over for them as well. So again, chess and not checkers, right? And thinking about the narratives we create about the people we're serving.
Nice, yeah.
And you also showed that beautifully in the film too, with the parent reading to her son and saying, he now expects me to do that every night. Yes.
Well, it is. I mean, they change the expectations as we do things. And we all know it's very different. And the narrative, though, it happened in 1964 when I was in kindergarten, was, and then by the time I was a juvenile delinquent in 8th grade or 10th grade, and people, like, you guys going to tell me it took the science of reading for people to figure out what was going on? I mean, really? Okay, so we're in the golden age. There's a lot going on right now. So, listen, I'm really honored that the IDA had us here, or allowed us all to come together. I'm really honored that you all made your decision to come here on a Friday night and hang out and meet with us and talk with us. And we're still going to be here to mingle around. I'm mostly honored that I got the Wisdom Trust, the Brain Trust over here, who are my friends and colleagues and advisors. And I appreciate you guys very much for all you do. And let's go onward.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Harvey.
Thank you. Boom, boom. Boom. I love you guys. Thanks.